Welcome back to Klepper's Corner. Today in history. Today we're diving into January 26th, a date in history that looked at the calendar, shrugged, and said, you know what? Let's do everything. It's a day that gave us republics, earthquakes, diamonds the size of emotional support boulders, Broadway divas in masks, astronauts missing the moon by a casual 22,000 miles, and the first guy who thought, what if we could beam moving faces across the room without summoning demons? January 26th isn't a date. It's a full binge season of human ambition, tragedy, and confused British colonial administrators wondering why everything they touch keeps getting complicated. Let's begin. Segment 1, the birth of nations, the death of empires, and the ongoing fight over the meaning of a holiday. January 26th is basically the grand opening day for new political identities. India chooses it to become a republic in 1950, not because it's convenient, but because it matches a 1930 declaration where the Congress Party said, we want complete independence, which in British terms translates to, we would like to have a polite disagreement followed by 17 years of increasingly annoyed paperwork. And when India finally flips the constitutional switch, boom, the world's largest democracy begins. Republic Day becomes a parade of tanks, dancers, missiles, school children, and diplomatic flexing that whispers, we are independent now, but also, please admire our synchronized baton twirlers. Meanwhile, Australia celebrates January 26th as the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788, the moment when Britain landed, raised a flag, and said, mine, like a toddler claiming the last juice box. But as modern Australia reconsiders the colonial footprint, the date has become a national identity tug-of-war. Some call it Australia Day, others call it Invasion Day, and some, honestly, just call it Tuesday because they're too sunburned to argue. And speaking of colonial real estate deals gone sideways, January 26, 1841 is when Britain formally takes possession of Hong Kong. London was initially disappointed, describing it as a barren rock. Fast forward a century and a half, and that barren rock turns into one of the world's richest cities. This is the British Empire's version of buying a house you think is trash, only to learn it sits on top of a gold mine. Happens to everyone, right? Segment 2, seismic drama, apocalyptic flooding, and Earth literally bending itself out of shape. January 26th is also the Earth's favorite day for saying, hey humans, stop getting comfortable. Let's start with the 1700 Cascadia megathrust earthquake, a monster so powerful it didn't just shake North America, it sent a tsunami all the way to Japan. Japanese records describe waves arriving with no local quake, prompting centuries of confusion and zero suspects until modern scientists Sherlock Holmes the whole thing together with tree rings, geological layers, and indigenous oral histories. It's the only time science solved a case using ghost forests, samurai-era scrolls, and tectonic regret. Then there's the 1531 Lisbon earthquake, another January 26th special. Buildings crumble. The Tagus River splits open like it's auditioning for Moses, then rushes back and swallows ships whole. Religious authorities immediately blame the Jews because apparently history's go-to reaction to natural disasters was blame the nearest minorities. Thankfully, playwright Gil Vicente stepped in to calm the mob, proving that sometimes the difference between reason and riot is one poet with good timing. And in 2001, Gujarat suffered a massive quake on India's Republic Day, because apparently the Earth wanted to underscore the theme of the segment, which is, I, Earth, am dramatic, and I do not care what holiday you're celebrating. That quake reshaped disaster preparedness, building codes, and public safety protocols across the country. Segment 3. Diamonds, televisions, telescopes, seaplanes, and other things humans invented because we never sit still. Let's talk technological chaos. January 26, 1905 gives us the Cullinan diamond, the largest gem-quality diamond ever found, weighing over 3,100 carats. A mine manager discovers it. An office clerk throws it out a window, which is exactly how humans treat priceless things until they learn they're priceless. Eventually, it gets shipped to King Edward VII using the world's most British security plan. Distract everyone with a decoy while mailing the real thing in a plain box. Perfect, because nothing says we take security seriously like hoping the world's largest diamond blends in with someone's socks. Then we get 1926, when John Logie Baird shows off the first true television. His equipment includes a hat box, a bicycle lamp, and enough sealing wax to make a Hogwarts professor sweat. But it works. Faint, blurry moving faces flicker across the screen, and the world forever changes. From that moment forward, we enter the era of sitcoms, cable news outrage, and 17 different streaming platforms, all charging $14.99 for shows one season away from cancellation. January 26 is also the day the Hale telescope saw first light in 1949, giving astronomers the cosmic equivalent of prescription glasses. Suddenly, galaxies are crisp, star distances make sense, and physicists can stop squinting at the universe like it's a blurry DMV eye chart. Meanwhile, Ranger 3 misses the moon entirely in 1962, proving NASA's early motto may as well have been, "We're trying, okay?" But even failure teaches, and Ranger's telemetry helps pave the road to Apollo. And Glenn Curtis gives us the first seaplane in 1911, followed by Bessie Coleman's birthday in 1893. The aviation pioneer who looked at racism and segregation and said, "I'm still flying higher than all of you." Segment 4, wars, revolutions, coups, and one general named Fighting Joe. Now we pivot from invention to destruction, another human specialty. In 661, Ali ibn Abi Talib is assassinated, ending the Rashidun Caliphate and launching political and religious divides that ripple through centuries. It's a reminder that leadership transitions in history rarely go smoothly, unless your definition of smooth includes swords dipped in poison. Jump to 1861. Louisiana says, "We're leaving the Union," becoming the sixth domino tipping the U.S. towards civil war. 2 years later, Lincoln replaces Ambrose Burnside, whose mustache could have been a separate military division, with General Fighting Joe Hooker. Hooker, fun fact, once had his headquarters so chaotic that his own name supposedly becomes slang for something I absolutely cannot mention in a family-friendly broadcast. This same date also gives us the authorization for the 54th Massachusetts, one of the first African-American regiments in the war, a testament to courage in the face of a nation tearing itself apart, and the reason we have stories like the charge on Fort Wagner, the kind of history that makes you stop making jokes for 5 seconds before starting up again, because that's the show's contractually obligated tone. The 20th century brings World War II, U.S. troops landing in Northern Ireland in 1942, followed by Audie Murphy becoming an action movie hero in real life in 1945, by single-handedly holding off an entire company of German soldiers. If anyone else told that story, you'd never believe them. And in Africa, 1986 gives Uganda a revolution, and 1991 gives Somalia a collapse. One leads to long-term centralized rule, the other to decades of fragmentation. Same date, wildly different destinies. Segment 5, culture, literature, Broadway masks, hockey legends, and one helicopter crash the world still feels. Finally, we reach the arts, sports, and pop culture segment, otherwise known as history, but with people who can dance, write, or score from center ice. January 26th marks the Broadway premiere of Phantom of the Opera in 1988, helmed by Andrew Lloyd Webber, the only man who could make a story about stalking sound romantic. Phantom goes on to 13,000 plus performances, proving audiences will pay good money to watch a guy in a mask throw chandeliers at his problems. It's also the reopening of Harlem's Apollo Theater in 1934, a temple of American music where legends were born, careers were made, and at least 200 performers found out the hard way that the audience could smell fear. Lewis Carroll is born on this day, blessing humanity with whimsical nonsense, linguistic invention, and at least 2 centuries of people pretending they fully understand the symbolism of the Cheshire Cat. J.D. Salinger dies on this day, leaving behind a legacy of teenage angst so accurate it made generations of English teachers cry. Wayne Gretzky is born, instantly causing every other future hockey player to lower their career expectations. Paul Newman is born, bringing charisma, acting chops, and salad dressing to the world. Ellen DeGeneres enters the scene, unleashing observational humor and eventually a daytime empire. And then there's 2020, the death of Kobe Bryant, a moment so shocking it felt like time paused. His impact on sports, culture, and global connection remains enormous, and January 26th will forever carry the weight of that loss. In conclusion, January 26th is not a date. It is a historical supernova. It topples caliphates, births republics, invents technologies, shakes continents, inspires revolutions, launches telescopes, premieres masked musicals, and reminds us that culture and catastrophe often sit on the same calendar square. If history is a tapestry, tomorrow the calendar will flip. The world will keep spinning, and another date will try, and probably fail, to compete with this cosmic overachiever.